Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, All In Health and Wellness. If you're looking for a health coach, you're looking for a sports performance coach, you're looking for nutrition guidance, like for instance, a meal-by-meal plan that will help you understand how to eat. It will teach you how to eat, and it will give your body, your cells, the proper nutrition to feel great and be able to perform at your best, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. If you're looking for those things, you're looking for the key to improve your sports performance, both from a nutrition standpoint and an exercise physical standpoint and a mental standpoint as you approach your athletic event. All In Health and Wellness is able to help in these areas. Go to allinhealthandwellness.com and you'll find the contact information for how to get in touch with them and get started on the plan that will improve your life. Well, thank you, Indu, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I think it's important for a couple of things for having you on. One is to share your story and how impactful it can be for other people, and in the knowledge that this is such a needed space. But the other side of it is to what technology is actually going to help provide us in the healthcare space, not just with ALS, but with everything as we start to mix things together.
Yep.
So you got involved because of personal story with your husband. And because this is not something that you were necessarily striving to do
not
as a
in my
teenager,
radar.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I did not go looking for this.
Right. But in mixing what you did know with technology into the medical field, how difficult has it been to combine those two things together?
I think it felt very organic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's my experience of what happened during the disease and having had experience of having, innovated in the space before.
Mm-hmm.
And also I was in a very early founding team of Healthion, which became WebMD. At that point, was definitely, a while back, but still was realizing how slow it was in healthcare to adopt technology, the enthusiasm, and also the willingness. They were a lot more guarded than even finance industry, right?
Right.
So, which kind of always puzzled me about, I would rather, what would I worry about? Somebody stealing all my money or somebody stealing my health record? I'm like, all my money, right?
Right.
But I just didn't understand this industry at all, right?
Yeah.
I never saw the finance industry reacting the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my company. I just didn't think anything of it. I just said, oh, this is the vertical I will not invest in. I will not touch it. I will, I was thinking more of an entrepreneur mindset.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't have to work on it. I will not start a company in there, right? Or,
Yeah.
it's just not a place where there's too many frictions. So
Yeah.
for me, it was just, I looked at it as though I'm an investor, another, layer. I never looked at it as a human side of it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, but having gone through this myself, I had an aha moment about, oh, I should have looked at it as it's almost like my job in a lot of
Yeah.
ways to take the know-how I have and figure out how to penetrate. It's not about looking at it as where do I put my money? It's not like, oh, do I want to buy Amazon stock or Google stock or Costco stock, right?
Right.
I was kind of looking at it that way. So I think by the time I started the company, I'd already had a realization of what could I done differently if I had that perspective
Mm-hmm.
earlier.
Right.
So when I started it, I think maybe my approach was yeah, I don't get me wrong, I've made my mistakes, but
Of course.
at least coming in, it felt organic. It's felt
Yeah.
like, I could tell the story, and subconsciously or consciously, I already had a framework on how to message it in a way to keep the uh, what do you say, the key priorities of the whole vertical in mind,
Right.
um, so that I'm not trying to go, why are you guys this way, as much as how do I make an impact
Mhm.
given that this is what the focus is.
Right.
I think my approach was very different. So it did seem very organic.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to notice that the difficulties that are inherent to the system,
Correct.
and I think that's something that a lot of patients get frustrated with different things about the system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not that somebody is trying to necessarily hold you down or prevent you from getting something
It's not personal. Yeah.
it's just the way the system
Yeah.
has
They they
been
they move
evolved and
at this
created.
pace of molasses. So it's
Yeah,
like, so it's kind of they're not embracing the tech, even though today, the physicians and the people who work in that industry, when I question them, I say, how many people really go to the bank to do their transactions anymore?
right.
Nobody does. And how many people drive without a GPS? Nobody does. Like,
Mhm.
then why do we still use fax machines? Why do
Right.
we still ask if patients should get their data back?
Yeah,
Why are we still in that era that was given to us 50 years ago?
right.
People do
Yeah,
scratch their head and go, yeah, you're right. Like, it's not, so it's just the system.
yeah,
Uh, People do understand that.
right. And and so you're coming from an area where I think and a lot of people understand that technology advances and AI is starting to become more and more of a daily use for a lot of people. And then we've got that other system on the other side where it's like joining those two together, there's got to be times in meetings where you're just like, there's a frustration level. How do you get all those different people to agree to like, this is where we want to move forward? Because, in looking at some of the stuff you're doing with technology and in the advancements and things that are coming out, there's got to be pushback from whether it's physicians or big pharma or somebody in a hospital system saying, whoa, that's too much for us right now to take on.
So, because I sell directly, it's a B2B and a B2C play. Of course, with the B2C with patients, that's not our revenue model. Our
Mhm.
revenue model comes from the B2B. um like I said, maybe subconsciously, consciously, we know how to message it in a
Mhm.
value prop, not like technology for technology's sake. It's not
Right.
about, hey, now AI is in, do you want to buy my AI product? What problem is it solving, and
Right.
why should I buy it? Like, more think about a problem. So for example, we have an AI product that is going to be looking up at all the clinical trials and give patients a way to say, as soon as they come in, they don't have to go through, 3 meetings with the neurologist. So what happens today is, especially in ALS and maybe in the other brain diseases as well, they do their first physician who tells
Hmm.
them you may have ALS, and then they get second opinion and
Right.
third opinion. And by then, by each doctors, you take 3, 4 months appointment
Hmm.
time. By the time you get to it, even though we got to it early, right? Like we had
Right.
to do, and within few weeks, it still took us 2 years to get diagnosed.
Right.
And a lot of the inclusion criteria in the clinical trials is, say, 16 to 18 months from the time you had your first symptom. So
Hmm.
that means you can't even enroll in your
Right.
trials. So
Right.
that is just like, really, really bad, because the clinical trials are looking for patients. And the more
Yeah.
longer it takes to get the patients, the longer it takes. That's why it takes us 8, 10 years to get a
Hmm.
trial out. And it's just a disservice for everybody in the ecosystem,
Right.
right?
Right.
If you get the patients, how about if you have the patients ready to get enrolled? First day, you have your enrollment. You will get it done with 18
Yeah.
months or less than 18 months. So there is a fast fail approach, right?
Hmm.
So this is not like, so for that, we created the AI where people can start asking for, what is my option? And
Hmm.
we say, hey, here are the trials, and we let them know immediately, hey, this is 16 months, this is 14 months, this is 18 months. So don't take a
Right.
long time for the next appointment and the next appointment. So you're
Yeah.
aware, right? That's what happened to us. We had no idea.
Yeah.
And then what do pharma care about two things: their enrollment, right?
Hmm.
They get the enrolled early, but also they can use the same AI to ask about what do patients really worry about? What is the
Hmm.
characteristics of patients? So today they can't talk to the patients directly,
Right.
and patients can't talk to the pharma directly. But through an AI, both of them can talk to each other and
Yeah.
understand what each other care about.
Right.
Right. So because the AI is getting trained on what pharma is looking for and what the patients understand, and they'll be able to communicate what their frustrations are. Certain trial,
Yeah.
asking them to do certain things is very frustrating. It's burdensome for them. And that's what a pharma wants to know. So
Right.
instead of going roundabout and learning from these different whatever consulting companies who give them, this is what patients care about, or
Right.
talking to two patients and saying, "Oh, I talked to the patients a checkbox." No, you do not.
Right.
You didn't talk to a mom with 5 kids in Nebraska. I mean, like, it's
Right.
very different. Like, you need to have a holistic view on
Hmm.
what do patients care about, because otherwise we're just having checkboxes and never moving the needle. That's
Right.
what I feel like. We in healthcare, we don't move the needle because we don't really fundamentally change the way we work.
Hmm.
And to fundamentally change we work, we need to change how the puzzle pieces are put together. And
Right.
it's not about just technology, it's about the value prop of the technology. So when I introduce this, people are like, "Oh my God, I want to use it, because now
Hmm.
I'm going to get to know what my patients are thinking without having to set up all these ad boards and add a thing."
Right.
Yeah, it's a generative AI. Just ask questions as a
Yeah.
normal person would. And then same thing with patients. Ask questions on, okay, how is this trial mean? How much, work is it for me? Do I have to
Right.
go, So that's how I see it as, when I was younger and when we started the Healthy On, yes, we didn't think that way. I'm like,
Hmm.
this tech, it's got a great database. It's a scalability. You can get your millions of records, and they're like, what problem does it solve for me? Right.
Right.
So, so I think really understanding big frictions, not,
Hmm.
you can't remove one or two frictions and say that's a big value prop. Like,
Yeah.
it's a friction that cannot be solved in the current environment, can be solved by using technology. So that's kind of how we
Yeah.
focus on.
Well, and I think that's huge to know about the clinical trials, because that's, I've talked to someone else about that's helping doctors and scientists do clinical trials and get them set up. And, one of the things he said was it's finding the people is one of the hardest pieces of the puzzle.
Mhm.
Finding the people to go through the trial. And if there's a time frame on there already that, and I think a lot of people have probably experienced this, is okay, well, I go to the doctor and they say you may have something, go see a specialist, and then it's, you obviously as the patient want an answer tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you may not be able to get in for 3 months.
There's a published research that about 70% of them are unaware of these things. And because
Yeah.
it's in a database called clinicaltrials.gov in the United States and similar one in Europe. And it's very hard to navigate. You need to
Yeah.
know what you're looking for. And it's not, it's a technology from 40 years ago. And it's
Right.
just a very clunky
Hmm.
thing. And there is no structured way. It's all a lot of free text. People can type in their trials in different ways. One of
Yeah.
them will call Lou Gehrig, the other one will call ALS, the other one will call it MND. So it's
Hmm.
just depends on it. It's just like, unless I don't know, I'm not in this field, I'm a patient, how would I
Hmm.
know what it's.
Right.
So there is a lot of issues with that. So what we do is we take that database and we transform it in a lot. So there's a lot of back end work we had to do
Hmm.
to make this generative AI work.
Right. But I could see like anything that speeds up the process is beneficial, right?
Yeah,
Like, and especially in something that's a degenerative disease, you know, anytime you have to wait, you just don't know when that point is going to be where it's like, okay, I've passed the point of being able to recover to X amount, or like because there's not a cure yet, so it's like there's always going to be this I can't come back to where I was point.
right.
Um, and so being able to get to that as quickly as possible, um, is
Yeah, I mean,
huge.
it's just unethical otherwise
Hmm.
because you have a patient there's no cure for the disease. The only hope is experimental
Hmm.
drugs. And if you can't really have that, that means pretty much, you have no hope, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and and it's just that is, I mean, for us it was a, hanging rope.
Right.
Uh, I
Right.
mean, either it doesn't work or will work, but at least I'm gonna be swinging with it, right?
Yeah.
Give me that. I will swing and see if
Right.
I fall or I'm gonna go on the other side and safely land. I don't know,
Right.
but at least it's it's a it's a hope.
Right. Yep. And so what from all the technology and stuff that you've been a part of with this, what's been the most impactful advancement?
Um, that's interesting. So, are you talking about like what's in general, what's happening in the technology field at all,
Well,
or in the healthcare?
with ALS, with ALS, what's with what you've seen and what you're trying to drive, like in whether it's with the patient side of it or on the physician side of it, and being able to help them with diagnoses and whatnot. Like,
I mean, literally, what we use today in diagnosis is what we used 70 years ago. That's the sad.
yeah.
Yeah. What has changed? What hasn't changed in 70 years?
Hmm.
ALS diagnosis. Um, People still hear 2 to 5 years from the time you get diagnosed. Today, every 90 minutes, they heard 70 years or 100 years ago.
Hmm.
Same thing. So for me, it's so hard to fathom how can something has not changed?
Yeah.
And how can we let that happen even?
Right.
Who's responsible for it? So it comes back to nobody's really responsible. Everybody's transient. Everybody's like, I think maybe we've lost our values along the way. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's just yeah, it's just like, we don't have the staying power, iterative agility, and especially with patients being 2 to 5 years to live, it's revolving door for the patients. It's
Oh,
not
sure.
Parkinson's or Alzheimer's where you stay or MS. The prevalence rate of ALS is same as MS,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
But 1 in 400 people. But then because they pass away, you just don't have the people who are stay long enough to fight the game.
Right. Right.
So somebody else has to fight it.
Yeah.
So from the diagnosis side, there's really nothing that has been approved. So I think the problem that I see is that we constantly look for a perfect solution,
Hmm.
but not knowing what perfection is,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
nobody knows what perfection is, but we're very, very quick to say that won't work because of this,
Hmm.
because we might have some Timbuktu island with no internet. So people might not use the sensor because they don't have internet. I'm like, why are we optimizing for corner cases, right?
Right. Right.
That's how it's been.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons it's not like saying it's good enough.
Mhm.
So it's like to have an attitude of it's good enough and then you reiterate to make it better.
Right.
That's something that new thinking we're putting together, and our goal is to bring sensors where people can be able to monitor through sensors, and you can actually know what your progression looks like, so you can actually
Mhm.
predict what your progression is going to be,
Yeah.
not like, oh, you're here now, oh, you fell and you broke your hip, sorry. Instead of that, we can say you have probability of falling in the next 6 months, so you should be
Right.
have the ability to do something now so
Yeah.
that you have enough time to either get an AFO, get a better shoes, or get a walker, get a so whatever
Right.
the severity is that you need to know, predictive algorithm, which is scientific, not
Hmm.
intuition based.
Yeah.
Some people can say some physician can say, oh, I already know because I've seen so many, but that's a tribal knowledge, that's
Hmm.
not transferable. So
Right.
really we need something, we need a system, and that's kind of what we are developing. So from the science side, yes, there is a way for us to look at the brain, and we're working with Allen Brain Institute to look at the brain and the pathology and kind of merge the digital and the biology and
Hmm.
say, oh, digitally I know how people are progressing.
Right.
I can
You
predict
can,
through
yeah.
the sensors and say this is slow, this is fast, and this is how they're progressing. But biology, we don't understand yet. So
Okay.
we are able to now, we're starting a new initiative to really come to both and say, how do you understand the biology from the technology point of view? Like,
Right.
oh,
Well, and that's huge because there's, I've looked at just as a whole and the whole population and looked at different stats as far as like, what happens when you break your hip if you're over, 60 years old or 70 years old. And like, and I've got a couple of clients that I work with to help them in their nutrition and their exercise, and they're in their 70s. And basically they all came to me saying, I don't want to be the person that breaks my hip because I know what happens. Like it's
yeah,
almost a death sentence
yeah,
at a certain point in
exactly.
life. And so if
A
you
lot of
can,
ALS patients die from falling, running out of breath. I mean,
Mhm.
so it's the, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can predict that and say, hey, this is where you are on your scale, in instead of it, if the prediction is still okay, you've got 2 to 5 years, if that can push everybody to 5 years, that's still better. You know what I mean? Like, granted, of course, we want it to be 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. Like, we want it to be super long and not have this like shorter time frame. But if we can notch that farther and
It's quality
farther,
of life, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's, once you have these episodes, your quality of life goes down.
right.
So keeping the quality of life as much as better so that you can participate in more of the experimental
Hmm.
um, stuff
Yeah.
to see. So that helps the whole, yourself, the science, so that's our goal is to keep people. That's why we call it care to cure. If you don't care
Hmm.
for your patients, you can't like really cure the disease
Right.
because you need to keep people healthy, in a way and hopeful so that people can actually participate in the
Hmm.
cure mechanisms of experimental trials.
Right. Well, yeah,
Long,
because that's got to be on the clinical trials standpoint, that's got to be a frustrating um, side effect almost of the disease in that they can't be on the trial long enough because that turnover rate of them passing, and then you've got to put somebody else in their place, and they're not at the same stage of disease, so you can't really say this is what's happening with whether it's a drug intervention or something else. That's got to be frustrating on the clinical trial side of it.
yeah, absolutely. Because, all they want to know is get the patients in and
Mhm.
see if it works or not. But I mean, what I'm always puzzled about is what is one stakeholder in this whole ecosystem who is interested in getting, to live? It's
Mhm.
patients.
Yeah.
And then we take the most money and most time to recruit patients. It just
Hmm.
doesn't, it's crazy, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, one
Yeah.
stakeholder who's like, whose vested interest is to live, right?
Hmm.
And but that's because of the mechanisms and the route we take
Right.
to message the patients. And there's an underlying foundational issue. Like I said, it takes 18 months to 24 months to get diagnosed. And if your
Hmm.
inclusion criteria is 16 to 18 months, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's so many of those issues that there's a fundamental, 80%, I think we calculated more than 60% of the people had no idea how to go get access to the trial because they go to the community neurologists who are not
Hmm.
up to date on, and so a lot of them go through social media. I mean, that's how
Right.
we get them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then they should be healthy enough to travel if they're in,
Hmm.
I think it's last calculation was something like over 60 to 70% of Americans live over 100 miles away from a neurology center, uh,
Hmm.
at least 100 miles. So,
Yeah.
so that means you need to have access. So once you're on a ventilator and things like that, you need to have your mobility goes down very, very
Right.
quickly. And
Right.
that means, you need to have caregivers who can travel with you. That means
Yeah.
people have to take time off of the day. And
Hmm.
it just the hurdle becomes so big that people actually drop out of the trials.
Right. Right. Well, and the other piece of the technology side is that it's, I remember seeing this stat that and this was from a couple years ago, so it's before AI and things really got even bigger. Um, but it's like 15 years before like cutting edge technology hits a family physician's desk because they've gone through med school, especially the older ones gone through med school. They're not necessarily, diving into researching computers and trying to find all the cutting edge stuff that's being published. They're just like, oh, this is the way we've done it. This is, I've got 10 years till I retire, you know, and and it's not that they're not trying to help their patients. It's just this is the way I've always done it, right? And so if it's
Yeah,
15
it's
years
a
before things
very,
hit, then it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, it's I would say, clinicians that I interact with, they're a lot more forward thinkers because,
mhm,
they want to have because, they use it in their everyday life. They're highly educated.
yeah,
I just feel the infrastructure of these institutions. I mean, even though you can say Harvard, Stanford, I mean, like it's just like infrastructure is so archaic in a lot of
mhm,
ways.
yeah,
It's monolithic, archaic, and the people who work there just assume that they don't have to, be up to date or
right,
excited about. And then I don't know, I feel like a lot of it is hidden behind the word privacy and security.
mhm,
We've come a long way. If you don't update it, obviously you're going to get, there's so much about privacy and security that you hear and how many forms. And I feel like I get more emails from my healthcare system that somebody hacked into it
right.
than any other system. Like, I thought you guys are like should have it locked down in a
Right,
locker. The
right,
amount of times you say you are not going to do something because of privacy and security,
yeah,
then they're like always sending me messages. So sorry, your health, your record got leaked, and
right,
we will give you 1 year of free monitoring of something, right?
yep, yep,
So, so yeah, I mean, I really think it's the system itself, it's the
mhm,
infrastructure.
mhm,
Um, I think there's no incentives. There is no, we move when we have incentives, when
right,
either there is a, way to make money or way to not get eaten up by somebody who wants to,
yeah,
so those are the two things, right? Either the fear or the greed. That's what we say,
yep,
But
yep,
if you don't have either and you're like, okay, why should I innovate?
mhm,
You just it's a very, it's a system that I'm just puzzled with how
yeah,
people actually say they're patient centric. This is supposed to be patient thing. How non-patient centric this whole thing is.
right, right,
Uh, it's very much focused on, I don't know who is going to get into trouble, but it's more of a lot of it is just like, I don't want to get into trouble. Like they don't want to share the data of the patients
mhm,
on research,
right,
de-identified
right,
to other people.
yeah,
Why? It's
yeah,
a patient's data,
yeah.
right? But of
There's
course,
ways
patients
to,
didn't
yeah,
know and they
there's,
consented it away. And um, they're like, well, if we give something and they're going to find something and we don't want to get into trouble. Well, but patients signed that, your
right,
job is to cure the disease,
mhm,
not worry about how somebody is going to. So it's really, I feel the the patient centric is not there. Zero.
right, right,
They don't want to collaborate. They don't want to, like it's it's just a very interesting
yeah.
ecosystem.
Well, and I would think from a patient side, like the patient A wants to find a cure, so they're willing to do whatever it takes for their own self. But a lot of times they're like, okay, I don't want somebody else to go through this too. So go ahead and use my data or use my information to, you
Cure the
know,
disease.
cure the disease, help, the next person to not have to suffer through all this.
Or me, I mean, they're not dead. I mean, so it's like,
Right.
yeah.
And so, yeah, it's sort of like, okay, well, who's holding us back from being able to take this to the next level is that is a big question. But you've also got,
So
from
that's
looking
why
at your
we go
website,
directly to the patients. We call it
yeah,
citizen-driven research. We go directly to the patients. So we tilted the whole model to
mhm,
say we go to the patients, we collect the data, we do IRB approved studies, and then we work with the patients directly. We gave the data back to the patients so they can go to their physicians and show, right? So And then on the other hand, we invite all the drug companies. We have about 21 companies we signed up, and they have access to the insights. We are data scientists and software
Hmm.
engineers. We take the data, convert it into insights, and share it with the pharma company saying, oh, look at this prediction. Like
Hmm.
now I can predict speech. Now I can predict
Right.
this. So it can go into your clinical trial to predict if your um, drug works or not, right?
Right.
And not only that, we can monitor these patients when they are in your trial because we know them. We
Right.
we actually work with them. So, and then what we do is we then invite the institutions. We work very closely with MIT, Harvard, Temple, and Emory, and other university, Minnesota. Um, then they come in and advise us on different research we're doing from the neurology perspective, from the neuroscience perspective. So we
Yeah.
kind of have reorganized
Hmm.
the puzzle pieces.
Well, and that's what I was going to mention was that like from your website, you've got such a variety of players involved that typically you don't see all of
Yeah,
them getting at the same table to help each other out,
yeah,
right? And that's I think the really cool thing. And I think that's what technology is ultimately allowing us to do
exactly,
is to say, they don't want to be the one that's missing out on it because I think
exactly,
everybody can see it's going when it's going to happen, nobody knows, but it's going to find ways to make this,
exactly. No,
extend people's life.
without the tech infrastructure, we wouldn't be getting, 800,000 people enrolled in 1 year and get
Right.
all the speech data. And that's one of the differences is that what I realized was the system is so slow that what I could do is take advantage of it. I don't have to suffer it. I
Yeah.
can take it out. And then when I showed the pharma companies, hey, look, I could actually go at the speed that you've never seen before, or it's not even possible in
Yeah.
the current system. They said, okay, we want to join you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that just it really it helps everybody, right? Because then
yeah, it
there's
helps
not a
patients.
bad guy. There's not a bad,
No,
person in the process because everybody's going, okay, we can all advance this. We can all have a piece of the puzzle. We can all play a role. And ultimately right now, everybody needs to play a role,
correct.
right? Because it's not like we're saying, oh, you can cure it without pharmaceuticals, or you can cure it without this, or you can cure it without that. Like right now, everything needs to be thrown at it um, in the correct way, but being able to use that data in real time is is the massive that's the big piece that's been missing when you look
Exactly.
at decades before.
Exactly. No,
So
exactly. So it's like you need all the stakeholders to work together, but in a different way and creating a flywheel from it.
mhm.
So that's kind of what we said. What we've done is one thing feeds another, and then, there's a flywheel.
Yeah. So that may be the biggest, thing that you've done is getting all those people to agree to work together,
Yeah, I
because a
think
lot
so.
of times they want to fight each other for having, whether it's the first one to announce the advancement or no, we want to be the one that does this. And so we're gonna keep our proprietary information secret.
Yeah, I think we call it empathy engineering, It's
Mhm.
like you kind of have to keep the empathy in the center of everything, and then we engineer around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we tend to make sure that we bring everything back to human.
Hmm.
I remember one time, when one of these meetings, um, I said, what else am I missing? This was early. They said, what does regulators think about this? What you're doing? And
Hmm.
I said, oh, the FDA. Okay. I've never, I'm a tech person. I've never had to work with. So I said, okay, I'll find out. And through some lawyers and things like that, I got an intro to the director of, the FDA for digital.
Hmm.
And then I said, hey, can you come and talk? We have in 2 weeks, we have a roundtable, and I've invited all these people. I want you to come and talk about what do you think, like, what we're doing. And I got an email back saying, there's a process, by the way, and here's a form. You have to fill out the form. And once you fill out the form, we will take, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks for them to
Yeah.
get back to me whether
Mhm.
it's a yes or a no.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, where is my taxpayers' money going?
Right. Right.
I'm like, so you are going to take yes or no in 6 weeks? No, 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 no. Wait, my round table is in 2 weeks. And
Right.
there's no no. There's always a yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your job? Your job is to come and make it easy for us to solve the thing. Why would you say no?
Right. Yeah.
Well, of course, they have to look at their liability. Anyway, so I said, instead of fighting it, I said, you know what? Let me use my empathy engineering, right? Like, let me bring it back to the empathy.
Yeah.
I said, look, to the scheduler, I said, I understand you have a job to make, but can I get 10 minutes of your time? Just come on Zoom. I just want to talk to you. She said, sure. And she came, and I told her why I started this and what is the problem with the system.
Yeah.
I said, only way we're going to break this is we humans decide we're not going to take this.
Right.
We are in the power here, right? But collectively, we have the power, but individually, we are victims.
Yeah.
But, I said, look, I don't want that. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. It's really, that's how passionate I am. Nobody should be going through. And she cried. She said her grandmother passed away 2 weeks before from Alzheimer's. She said, the amount that we went through was very similar. I said, okay, now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Each one of us in our positions, we say, no, I will not just follow. I will do something that I've never done before. I'm not asking you to break the rule. I'm asking you
Right.
to go figure out how to make this happen. And she did. She came through.
Yeah.
And I got the FDA person to come to the meeting. So that's when I said, there's hope here.
Yeah.
Because every human being has gone through it. If not, they will go through it.
Mhm.
And I think it's in our best interest. It's our job to say, whatever role we're playing, instead of just sitting and bad mouthing the system or it's not going to do anything. It's only going to
Yeah.
create us versus, they versus us. I mean, it's like, instead of that, let's just go do something together.
Right.
And that's how our pitch has been,
Yeah.
In the end, we're all humans and let's do something. I'm not asking you to break your law, break your thing, but so I think there is, people who join because they actually feel connected to that.
Mhm.
And some people join because there's a fear of missing out.
Right.
And some people will always be an outsider saying, I don't like this, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And, there is always going to be, and I don't need 100% to make this work. I
Right.
just need the people who are leaders,
Mhm.
who are forward thinkers, who are partnering with us to say, let's go and re-energize this, innovate this so that our children or our grandchildren are not going to
Right.
be in other systems saying, in last 70 years, what did we all do?
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and a lot of times it takes somebody like yourself with knowledge of how to do things in a completely different industry, faster, quicker, smoother, whatever you want to call it, and bringing it to an archaic system and going, whoa,
Yeah.
what if we
I
just
do
what if we
have,
just tweaked, and then boom,
yeah,
we're
I
gonna be
do
able to
have
fly.
like some few anecdotes that way. These executives of these pharma companies, when I have dinner with them, these all become very good friends with me.
Mhm.
And I'll be saying something, and she's like, "So how do you take care of HIPAA?" Or I said, "What HIPAA?" She goes, am I drinking the Kool-Aid? I'm like, yeah. So, like, I caught it now. I mean, like, so
Yeah.
we laugh about it and we say, so Indu will catch us. And it's like, it's really interesting. They even have like some saying you can never say never to Indu Navar. Like, it's like,
Right.
because there's always a way.
Mhm.
So it's kind of, yeah, I mean, it's all I'm doing is like kind of shedding light.
Mhm.
That's about it. It's like,
Yeah.
and because people have not questioned it.
Right. Well,
And good
but
people that you just haven't questioned it.
right. But you're using technology to back that up,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
I
To
mean,
be
that's
able to
the only
say,
way to remove. So the goal is, I mean, what we do in healthcare is, oh, there's a problem. Let's go put more people into it.
mhm.
And then people become the problem. Then there's turfs, then there is, but we're not automating. There's no
Right.
technology. Nobody is like, I wish in enterprise world we had so many shadow ITs, right? Like
Yeah.
everywhere. I'd like There's nothing like that. It's like, everybody's throwing people. There's oh my God. It's like, that's why you can't scale.
Yeah.
I remember like getting 800 patients or, I had one of the projects and I just couldn't understand. I said, okay, I have 7,000 samples of speech and I want this to be rated
Mhm.
by the speech pathologist. And somebody said, it's going to take me 2 years. I'm like, why two
Wow.
years? And I did the math and I'm like, it's a 40 hours work.
Yeah.
Why would it take 2 years? I mean, they're like, oh, you should understand there's infrastructure, there's thing. I'm like, but why? It's like,
Yeah.
so somebody was telling me that's because you come from the tech world. For you already have processed in. I'm just gonna build a software for the speech pathologist to come in and just rate it, and it's
Yeah.
gonna take them less than half a second or second to rate these things. And, okay, even if it's a minute per thing, it's like
Sure.
I did the math. And for me, it's already underlying thing that how would they rate it? I'm
Mhm.
not having them come in and download some Excel and download,
Right. Right.
it's not a manual process. So yes, everything we do underlying is without the automation and technology and the AI infrastructure, we wouldn't be. We use a lot of AI and machine learning for our
Yeah.
prediction modeling for our patients. There is a lot of generative AI. People are asking questions about, hey, what is my, and we've taken a lot of experts. So there's a lot of data that floats.
Mhm.
All these experts are in videos, and how do you
Right.
consume them, right? We've trained our AI with about 300 hours of our own data that we've collected through Zooms and through talking to people. We know it's a really good data and
Yeah.
the accurate data, and we've trained our generative AI on it. So people just ask questions now, right? How
Right.
do I slow down? What are the genetics? What, like we can ask questions. So yes, without that, we can't scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and without that, you can't reach
Yeah, the
the
numbers we
doctors that are the doctors that are in rural towns and
and also patients who are in rural town,
yeah,
like
that may not have the
yeah,
access or the
exactly.
knowledge or the care, but they
Exactly.
can go to Everything ALS and go, okay, wait, I've got
Yeah, I
somebody I
mean,
think has
I
got
have all
ALS.
50 states and I've got like
Hmm.
little towns, little rural area, and also patients move, as
Right.
some people live in the city, but then once they get diagnosed, they say, oh, I was living by myself or I need help. I need, my sister lives in a little rural area in Michigan. So they move as
Right.
their thing. But with us, when they're with us, it doesn't matter. If they move, we're still monitoring them. We're
Right.
still predicting, we're still monitoring. They don't lose the access to
Yeah.
their monitoring system.
Yeah. That's awesome. So if someone is looking at, okay, I'm in the process of getting diagnosed, or, a family member or a friend, or like how can they follow along with what's going on, have, get in touch with like Everything ALS to like make sure that they're getting the most information they can get.
So come to everythingals.org,
Mhm.
and we have events that is online events 3 times a month.
Okay.
So it's 3 weeks in a month. So this is for people. It's not about just throwing in more things that you can read and,
Hmm.
consume. Talk to people.
Right.
And then we have an app, Everything ALS app, which is free, and you can download the app. And we have a lot of good things that you can start on right now. That is, to start off with, we have something called Pathfinders. That is humans who you can actually connect with immediately. And then we have an AI guide. You can start asking questions to the AI guide. Anything, even middle of the night, you have thoughts,
Hmm.
ask the question.
Right.
Right to the pathfinders. You have both humans and you have the AI. And AI is collectively 300 hours and maybe over 100 experts in ALS, 100 neurologists and physicians who
Hmm.
have shared their questions with the other patients who have asked them and their insights. And that is the AI, right? The AI
Yeah.
in the box is collectively over 400 people that you have access to immediately with a generative AI.
Nice.
And then you have access to immediately, you can get into the research side
Hmm.
and start monitoring your speech, walking, your breathing. Uh, and then, there is a diary where you can actually start seeing, okay, what are your changes that's happening?
Hmm.
And the most important part is
Yeah.
also is the nutrition. You can actually
Hmm.
start. with the computer vision, you can start documenting. All it takes is put your camera on the food and it'll
Hmm.
calculate how much you're eating, what neuro inflammation you have, and
Nice.
also your glycemic index. So you can start looking at, because one of the things we say is that you eat less neuroinflammation, but
Mhm.
don't lose the calories.
Right.
So, and how much protein, how much micronutrients and macronutrients. And something came out over the weekend, right? Lithium is very, very important for your neurodegeneration. Like,
Hmm.
like a lot of the um, um, aspects of nutrition. So we're putting together a lot of the aspects people can, as soon as they get diagnosed, they can start paying attention to.
Right. Well, and one of the things I love is that, and I heard this the other over the weekend. I heard somebody say it, which and it's something that I've told people. Um, but it's great to be able to gain the knowledge, but you've got to be able to apply the knowledge. And so I think it's great that you've got the AI side of it is like, okay, like you said, in the middle of the night, I don't want to bother anybody. I can just look at it, AI, da 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 da. But then, okay, I've learned all that stuff. How do I actually apply it to my life? I can contact somebody who's lived it, who can
Exactly.
help me on the personal side,
Exactly.
and go like, okay, yeah, I know all this stuff says this. This is how you actually get it to work in your daily life when you've got all these
Exactly.
commitments and all these stressors and all these other things going on.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I
we
love
always
that.
have a human in the loop, I
I
mean,
love that.
human in the loop is very important. Again, we use all the technology to automate a lot of the stuff, but uh, the empathy part and the connection part and the trust building.
Right.
So that's why we say it's a trusted innovations. Trust and innovation has to go together.
Yeah.
I think that requires another human to
Yeah.
human connection.
Yep.
We're still animals of herd, so we
Oh
still
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that relationship piece is huge
very huge. I mean,
in
we can't take it out of the equation. And we know the longevity, the number one is in longevity is relationships and
yep.
how you socially communicate your social structure.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And so having that connection is not just, hey, we're going to give you all this data, we're going to give you all this information, we're going to tell you all these things, but it's also that we're going to come alongside you and have somebody
absolutely.
that's going to be able to like you said, have the empathy for you, be able to walk you through the processes of the things that you're going through, sort of what to expect along the way, and guide you through, you know, what's going to happen. May not be exactly step by step, but so that you know what's coming. So because that I think is one of the biggest things is if, like you mentioned fear earlier, and like having the fear of the unknown of what's going to happen can drive you crazy sometimes.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, that's also, one of the driving factor, and I saw it happen
Mhm.
in my household. So
Yeah. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
It's
So,
terrible.
yep. Well,
Yeah.
Indu, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. This has been I mean, just a wealth of information. Is great.
Thank you.
And thank
Thank
you
you
for
for having
everything
me.
that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.